Now, I know from my survey the other day that Meghan Cole is probably not the most popular topic to be covered when it comes to Kylie Rodney. And I appreciate that. And I must admit, I'm a little bit over Meghan Cole myself. But if you're watching this, thank you for doing so. The reason I've decided to do this particular video is that it is a continuation of the series of videos that I've been doing based on a panel from Perplexed channel. And this is a somewhat forgotten discussion that Meghan Cole did. And on one hand, I can understand why, because it is a bit of a shit show, basically. There's no new information that she's given, but at the same time, it's also incredibly revealing. Because from listening to this particular panel, we can get a really good understanding of the motivation behind Meghan coming out on panels one after the next. And it gives us a better understanding of whether or not we should be giving her credibility. And I will admit that there are things that she's said that do give me pause and make me want to dig deeper. And I think there's times when she has inadvertently slipped up and given some truths. But it's a struggle because amongst all that, 80% of what she says appears to be made up. And trying to find the truth in all that is a struggle. But anyway, let's listen to this panel discussion with Meghan Cole, and let's see what it is that she does in fact reveal about herself through this discussion.
All right, Megan's here.
Okay, all I want to say to all of this, because I'm now crying for a different reason. I don't know the end result. That's why I'm not 100% sure, and I can't say it for a fact. That's what I was trying to tell you earlier, and then my phone died. It does something weird. I can't say without a certainty of a doubt that is Kylie's car that into the water. I can't. And I only went to find out about a 911 call, and that's when all of this other stuff happened. So I'm not trying to say anything different, and I didn't know. That's all, and that's why I'm not trying to lie about anything. So I don't want you guys to think that I'm trying to come up with stuff. I just know what I was told, what I've been told, and gone through to try to fix things that people think I'm lying about, and I'm not.
Okay, first of all, I call bullshit when someone comes on a panel and says, well, now I'm crying for a different reason. And yet there is no indication in their voice, in the intonation, in anything like that they actually are crying. And she quickly forgets that. Not once does she sound like she's sniffling or getting emotional or anything like that. So I'm not quite sure what she was aiming at there, but it fell flat pretty quickly. Now, she starts with saying that she can't say for sure that it is Kylie's car going into the water. And she's not trying to lie about anything. Now, for me, the moment someone tells me after they've made a statement and then they say, I'm not trying to lie about anything, to me that sounds like they are trying to convince me that they're not lying. And if you're telling the truth, generally you're not going to turn around and say, I promise I'm not lying about this. Generally, it's an indication that they are lying. Now, I personally have questions about this supposed conversation that she recorded. I've covered that in a few other videos, so I'm not going to go into that in depth here. But let's just be clear here. If that individual was a real person, and hey, they've never come forward, we've never had them fully identified, but if that was a real person, never once did they actually say that they saw a vehicle go into the water. They said they were there at the night of the party, supposedly, and that they saw a vehicle get very close to the water. And then they turned around conveniently at the precise moment, and when they turned back, the vehicle was gone. Now, we're talking about quite a distance across a reservoir. So, why would you presume that the vehicle went in the water just because you didn't see the headlights anymore? Most people would think logically that they must have pulled up to the water, turned their engine off, and turned the headlights off, because it would be too dark for you to see across the reservoir to see if the vehicle was actually still there. So, like I said, if this person is real, I call bullshit on the whole story anyway, and I think if this person was real, then Meghan was trying to manipulate them to push her own narrative. Now, the other interesting thing that she says here is that she gabbles something which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And then she talks about she trying to find things that people think she's lying about. In other words, what she's trying to do is go up on panels and convince people that she's not lying when they call her out on things that don't add up. And she's basically admitting to this right here. So, seems like motive for continuing to go on panel is because people are starting to question the inconsistencies in her statements and the things that don't make sense, and people did believe that she was full of shit a lot of the time. And rather than just walking away and going, well, okay, maybe I misinterpreted things and letting it all go, she has to get up on panel and she has to come up with a new narrative to save face for herself. And that is basically what she's admitting to here. She's trying to find ways to convince people that she's not lying. That's what she's saying.
Meghan, why release the footage to a couple YouTubers of that recording?
I don't.
She's talking about the crimes upset.
She knows what I'm talking about. She just doesn't know how to answer, though. Like, why you had that for a week? You said nothing to nobody. And then all of a sudden, it comes up on Kurt's Live.
I can
and
tell
two
you when
YouTubers had it all of, like for a day.
I'll tell you. I did it on. Do you want me to look up when I don't know how to look up when I took the video. I don't know.
You said you had it for a week, but I guess my question is, what was the point of releasing it and then dropping it as a bomb in Kurt's Live? Like,
I didn't mean to drop it as a bomb. I went in because I didn't mean to drop it as a bomb.
So note, when asked why did you release the footage, there was a really, really long pause, like crickets. She couldn't think of the answer to give that would make her look good, in my opinion. Why did she choose to release this recording and not instead take it to law enforcement or the FBI? I think that's a big question that so many people have asked. Why did she never take it to her locals or to the FBI? And the other question that was asked, which I think is also a fair question, is why did she sit on it for a week before suddenly handing it out to all these YouTube channels? She claims that it's because it was an illegal recording, which it was, and that she needed to talk to her pastor first. This from a person who, at this point in time, hadn't been to church in years by her own admission. And I'm sorry, but if it's that concerning, if you're that worried about it, you shouldn't be worrying about going and talking to your pastor. You should be worrying about handing it over to law enforcement, regardless of whether you've broken the law getting that recording. Of course, in a court of law, the recording would mean nothing because it was an illegal recording. But even still, it was supposedly information. Now, her saying that she didn't mean to drop it as a bomb on Kurt's channel. Now, if you've listened to that interview or that panel discussion, pretty much the entire time that she was on Kurt's panel, she was trying to angle towards discussing that video or that audio or whatever it was. That's what she was angling at the whole time she was on there, hinting about it, trying to constantly bring it up as the topic of conversation, waiting for someone to ask for her to provide it, or for them to go and have a look on the Crime Stories Obsessed channel, I think was the one that dropped it. But to me, and I think even Kurt called it out, it seemed like she went on Kurt's panel specifically to try and get people to watch this video that she had made.
Do you guys mind if I chime in really quick? I'm so sorry. I'm a little behind. What video are you guys? Because
Okay,
I'd like
so
to.
I will tell you quickly. We were on another live, and all of a sudden it came out that there was a recording Meghan had taken of apparently the girl who saw Kylie's car possibly go into the water that night. Meghan has like a 16-minute recording of this video. And apparently it was sent to 2 YouTubers yesterday.
I sent it. No.
And you said you had it for a week prior.
I didn't send it to him yesterday. I sent it to one person because I didn't know what I should do with it. That's why I asked.
It doesn't really matter when, or I'm asking you, what was the purpose of releasing that footage?
Because I just wanted to prove that I was trying to say there was no 911 call made, and that's why this stupid video came up. And if I don't say the whole freaking thing, then people think that I'm lying, and I'm not lying.
So when you claim with utter confidence on a panel discussion that you know that somebody saw Kylie's car go in the water and that they rang 911 and reported it, when someone else goes and checks up on that and proves that that 911 call was never made, of course people are going to question you and think that you are lying. And the thing is, when you've changed your story so many times previously to try and save face, then it's a bit like the boy who called wolf. People are going to turn around and think that, well, you are just lying to save face. So basically what she is admitting here is that this video is not about trying to save Sammy's ass or trying to prove that Kylie drove into the water. No, the main purpose of this video is for her to save face, because she got caught out in saying that a 911 call was made when in fact it never was. Whether that was a lie or whether it was a misunderstanding, turning around and coming out with this illegal video just to save face is not the way to handle it. So I can understand why people were slightly narky with her, asking why did you choose to release this video or audio, because I think very few people have seen the actual video. And I will just point out that, having seen the video myself, you never once see this person who was apparently talking to Meghan in the store. So, once again, there's no solid confirmation that this video is legitimate and real. I'm just going to put that out there. And like I said, I've covered that in previous videos, so we'll leave it at that.
Meghan, can I ask you, did you submit this video to law enforcement? I'm just curious because based on my own experiences, submitting things to law enforcement in this community has been really difficult because I don't know if it's being seen. And I'm just curious if you did submit it to law enforcement.
It has been given to the family, which I'm sure is turned into law enforcement. That's what I'm assuming, because that's my first person that I gave it to. That's the first person I wanted it to get to, and the only person I knew that someone was talking to someone in the family was who I gave it to, because that's what I wanted them to do.
Okay, I'm just going to call a spade here. So what has she said? She has, first of all, said, no, I didn't give it to law enforcement. She's made that pretty clear. And then she bumbles around about it being given to the family. But when you listen to her, she admits that, no, she didn't give it directly to the family. She gave it to somebody who she thought might have connections with the family and might therefore choose to give it to the family. So it's basically being passed around all kinds of people, if indeed she did truly give it to someone connected with the family. Because when you start making really evasive statements like that, to me that says that you're trying to come up with some sort of plausible deniability. If the family turn around and say they've never seen it, you can say, well, I gave it to this anonymous person because I knew that they had connections with the family, and it's got nothing to do with me if they never gave it to the family. So she's being really vague about who has possession of this video or who's been given possession of this video. But let's be clear, she's not given it to law enforcement. She's not given it to the family. And to be perfectly honest, what sort of person would give a video like that to the family of a deceased child? Because if that statement is correct, if this story that she's putting out there is correct, then all it can do is hurt the family. It's not going to change anything. And making it public can only hurt the family and not change anything. I think this was a truly disgusting act, regardless of whether it was a made-up video or whether it was legitimate. If you have that sort of information, something like that is going to be devastating for a family, you don't want to make it public. And any person with any amount of empathy would understand that. But no, not Meghan Cole, because she needed to prove that she wasn't a liar.
Okay, but you can understand how it looks like, how that looks, right?
I don't get it. If someone will explain it to me, if someone please do. I don't understand. I just wanted to go.
It's kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but in my opinion, it's like this bombshell evidence you had and something people you knew would be interested on YouTube.
That's why I haven't released it. I haven't
But
done.
you did. You sent it
today.
You sent it to YouTubers, and then you brought it up in Kurt's live.
Because
It's like a bomb.
I didn't mean to bring it up in Kirk's live. He said, "Is this Meghan someone we can trust?" And I'm like, I'm trying to tell that everybody that I can be trusted, and then because I hate being called a liar, and I'm not lying.
My point is, you've been defending yourself for a week. You've had this video for a week.
Now, we've come across this before with Meghan suddenly claiming that she doesn't understand when people are discussing something with her or asking her something. This is one of her classic defensive strategies. When she's run out of answers that are going to make her look good, and she knows that she's been backed into a corner and that she's been shown as a liar or as someone who has done something wrong, that's when she comes out with, I don't understand. But the thing is, if the tables were turned and she was observing this same situation, she would be quite capable of explaining to people why it was such a bad act to, first of all, do this secret recording, sit on it for a week, share it on panels so it would get out there publicly, and then go on another panel to make sure that people were going to see this recording, when all along you hadn't bothered to go to law enforcement with it. She's been called out for doing the wrong thing, and her response is to try and plead ignorance and to suddenly act like the victim.
Why not do it in a different way?
I didn't know how.
I will say the only thing I do have to say is getting into and tapping into this YouTube community. It does seem like it's hard, like I've had tips that I've wanted to share. I've actually contacted Check It TV before because I haven't known how to share things. I've become frustrated myself trying to share information about this case with local law enforcement to the point where I don't know if you.
And I just didn't know. And that's what I said. I said, who do I give this to? What do I do? What do I do? And if I go to law enforcement, they don't believe. They're just either going to look at me and say, okay, we already know it. Maybe. I don't know.
So she's claiming that she didn't know that the right thing to do was to go to law enforcement with the information she had. Honestly, who believes that? But note also that she essentially slipped up there and said, if I took it to law enforcement, they would think I was lying. Now, if it was something that was a legitimate tip, you wouldn't be worried about whether or not law enforcement thought you were lying, or what they thought about you, full stop. If you thought it was something that could genuinely help the case, you would take it to a tip line or take it to the FBI. I, for one, did come across some curious things early on in Kylie's case, which I did submit to the FBI. Stuff that I'm not going to discuss right now. So, why couldn't she do that? To me, her saying that she didn't take it to law enforcement is another indication that she could well have made all this up, and it was simply to save face. I'd like to know what other people think about this, though, because I know that I can at times be a bit harsh on Meghan, but at the same time I get frustrated by her constantly trying to backpedal, trying to change the narrative to cover her own ass. And trust me, we've seen her do that so many times. So I guess, maybe there's a little bit of justification in being frustrated with her.
I don't. And so I don't know. Then all of a sudden these lights things come out and I go, well, that's really ridiculous for me to worry too much about it, because they have it now right there. So it didn't, that's why I didn't know what to do about it. And I still don't. And I have that, and I went back and forth, but then someone else told me that this girl is also talking now.
Seriously? I couldn't decide what to do, but then the fire cam footage came out. So I decided to do nothing, because that was a bigger thing than what I had. Sure. You're basically deciding that this tip, if it was legitimate, is no longer important because the fire cam footage proves what you are talking about. Honestly, I don't understand when people try to find ridiculous excuses for their own failures, because that's all she is doing here. Especially when she turns around and says, and I've heard that this girl is talking now. So in her head, she's justifying not handing any of this over to law enforcement because, oh well, there were the fire cam footages and the girl's talking now, so I'm excused for not doing the right thing.
The other lady, someone sent me a picture saying that she's talking to someone else. And I went, well, if she's talking to someone else, she wants it out. Why not? I wasn't going to release it. But if we said we weren't going to release it, and everybody got mad at me because they think I'm hiding something and I'm doing something behind the scenes, and I'm not.
Meghan, let me ask you something.
And that, what?
I love when Laura sits back and listens carefully to what's going on, takes it all in, and then calmly steps in with, let me ask you something. She's listened very carefully to everything Meghan says, and look, honestly, she's got one of the best bullshit meters on the planet, if you ask me. Note Meghan saying that she thinks that this lady was going to come out and make it all public anyway, so that's why she made it all public. Still doesn't go back to the why she didn't take it to law enforcement, but she's scrabbling really, really hard to come up with as many excuses as possible as to why it's not her fault for making this information public when it really shouldn't have been.
Hey, now it's my panel. Now,
I know.
Something though. If the woman doesn't want to come forward, and the woman doesn't want to say who she is, and the woman doesn't want to, say anything, then I don't think releasing it even matters. Because even if she gives it to the FBI, it's not going to matter, because this woman could deny it or say it wasn't me or not come forward. So I don't know. What was the purpose of you getting the video?
Because then you would believe someone might actually say she's not lying. I was defending myself because I made a mistake and someone told me bad information and said that there was a 911 call that was made, and it made me look like a freaking idiot and a dumb shit. Sorry. That's why I'm so frustrated, and everybody does. And now that I know, and I'm like, at the end of this, I don't want, from where this video ends, I don't want to know, and I can't know until the law enforcement does the job and does what they're going to do. I can't.
So Perplex has made some really, really good points there. And yeah, what is the point of putting the video out? And Meghan makes it really, really clear. The only reason she put the video out was to save her own ass. To try and prove to people that she wasn't a liar. That there was something that went on, even if there never was a 911 call made. Thing is, it's really hard sometimes to believe that she's being honest when she admits that this story is all about saving her own ass and has nothing to do with Kylie. Because that is essentially what she is saying right there. She was upset because Michelle After Dark proved that there wasn't a 911 call made, So what did she do? She came up with this video. Because for her, it was worth causing hurt for Kylie's friends and family by putting this thing out, so long as it cleared her name and convinced people that she wasn't a liar.
But I don't think the
Megan,
video...
can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
As a local, you know how easily information can get turned, how easily it can get switched within this community. One thing that
I should have talked to you. Someone said I should have talked to you. And
through this entire case, I've been so careful about what I've heard, who have I heard it from, and unless I personally have seen something, or a very, very close friend of mine has seen something, I have not said anything because I don't know.
Everybody gets stuck on. I agree with what you're saying. I 100% agree. But everybody kept yelling at me about Sam, and I'm like, it's so not about Sam anymore. Now it is Ellie, and it's the law enforcement that if this is true, which I like, you asked me. Someone asked me, "Are you 75? Like, how much do you believe?" They're obviously I can't get any more information without putting myself in a situation where it is trouble. And I don't want to. So at this point, I don't want to know anymore. And that's why I stopped doing panels. I've told my daughter I'm not doing any more panels. I mean, for my family, I get what everybody's saying, but at the same point in time, I have to defend myself. And so that everybody doesn't think I'm an idiot and a crazy person and a lawyer or all these things. And I'm like, I don't know what to freaking do.
So this other local made a really good point to Meghan about not coming out and providing people with information that's simply going to get twisted and confused. And Meghan just basically shat all over that and continued on with, she didn't listen at all. She just continued on with trying to justify why she was there on that panel and why she was still speaking out. Because it wasn't about Sammy anymore, she says. For her, it was all about the way people were perceiving her. So what she was saying here was that she was going on panels now to try and improve her own image out in public. And she's saying, she says, I've stopped doing panels while she's here on a panel. And she's talking about her daughter asking her to stop doing panels. But she's saying, but I had to do it for my own sake. She's basically saying that even though her daughter wanted her to stop doing panels, she didn't want to stop because she wanted to make herself look better in people's eyes. She didn't want people to think she was a liar or a crazy person or all those other things that she mentioned. And yet, by coming up on these panels, she was doing precisely that. Now, I'm going to stop there, and I would like to do another video on this panel because it starts to get a little bit interesting from here on in, with people pointing out a few home truths to Meghan. And I think they're quite spot on, and I think it's worth listening to what these people have to say. But in terms of what we've listened in this particular video, on the surface it may sound that Meghan's given us pretty much nothing new here. But at the same time, it's worth taking into consideration that she's spent 20-something minutes desperately trying to justify her need to come out with information that probably shouldn't have been made public. Her reason being to save face. And this calls into question the reasoning behind a lot of the things that she's said when she's come out and changed her story. I think it shows us that we do need to pay careful attention to those stories where she has changed the stories. We need to pay attention to what she said beforehand. But we also need to be cynical about things where she comes and adds to a story and brings in new details to a story that we've never heard before. Because from this, the main takeaway from me is that she will do anything in her power to save face and convince people that she's not a liar. And if that means changing the story to make her look better, she will. Thanks for listening. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share.